Okay, so we had a question, Garrett?
Yes, sir. So my question was, consciously we tell ourselves to do these movements, we fail. So how do we subconsciously get our subconscious involved so we can be more
I
successful?
think you're going to have to consciously get your subconscious involved, not subconsciously get your subconscious involved.
That's it.
Semantic. So, we're consciously becoming the architects of our consciousness, right? We're not just going on all of this stuff that was either programmed into us through tens of thousands of generations of survival mechanisms or by our life experiences, parents, etc. So one of the things you need to do is start exposing, this is my personal take and journey, start exposing those things. Where did I get this fear? How come I'm not connected to my body? Why do I do this way? How does the body work and why? What are the survival mechanisms, right? I told you a few years ago when we were at Esalen Institute with Dr. Siegel, Dan Siegel, who's really exceptional in the field of neuroscience. And as we were walking back, I was walking with him and I go, you know, Doc, your survival mechanism will get you killed. And he goes, well, it's there for a reason. And it is. It's for survival of the species, not survival of the individual. So if you want to watch how that works, look at herbivores in Africa and see how they respond and how they work. And then, because we have so many videos of things that are happening now, take a video of people panicking in various situations that you can see and look at those movements and everything and compare them to the herbivores, and you understand that the majority of people are sheeple when they're pressed and they start losing their minds in that sense. So we don't want to be those people, so we are consciously programming ourselves not to respond and allow our survival mechanisms to override our mind. To override our mind. And you see some of the horrific things that happen with that. People panic in a crowd and as they all start moving, people get trampled to death, and everybody's mind is gone. They're moving with the herd, right? They're moving with the herd. So every time we run into this, how come? I know, you guys will say, no, I know, I understand. Okay, I can think of another student who used to say, no, I know. No, you don't. Because you're not doing it. We mistake, and this is a massive problem. Check university professors that have never done the job that they're teaching people how to do, like run a business when they're teaching economics, right? Okay, it's all theory to them. If you can't do it, you don't know it or understand it. Your intellectual understanding is not knowing. If you can't do it, you don't know it. We're experiential beings. The only things we really know are the things we've done and can do. Everything else is a subjective movie in your brain. So, the advantage of having a systematic practice on how to teach yourself to do these things is the whole cause and effect, the failure, the frustration with the failure, right? The expletives that come with that, anything else that you need to do, but you're running up against yourself, and that's a tremendous advantage. The willingness to continue to train and to let go of the fears that are causing that resistance, because that's what causes resistance, okay, is the gift of all of this. Okay? It doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I have personal experience with this. I said this, I had to give up something that really meant a lot to my ego, my sense of self, and everything else to get on this journey. Well, not to start the journey. That was easy. Oh, I want to start this journey. Okay, now this journey ends up being a whole lot different in a lot of ways than I thought it would be, and required a lot more of me than I thought it would, and especially a lot of digging into all the fears and all of the things that created, why my need for things or what got in my way. And that's the most difficult thing, is letting those things go. And it can be extraordinarily difficult because a lot of times you just can't figure out why. I told you, on the edge of Havasupai Canyon, okay, which costs a lot now and difficult to get into. I think they're booked up a year ahead. I was talking with Matthew and Christopher about that. We were glad we went, all those years ago when it was not well known. Okay? But it took for me literally standing on the edge of a cliff, coming this far to doing a Peter Pan, for me to recognize an extremely simple concept that you'd think would be like, what's the problem? So I don't know what it'll take with all of those things for each individual, okay? Except everybody's going to have to face their thing with that until it's just like, oh. And most of the time it's, it's just like an epiphany. And you feel like it's so simple, you're so stupid, which is true. But we can't see what we can't see, and we don't know what we don't know. So this keeps bringing you up against that until it clicks. Okay? When it clicks, you still have to keep working on all that stuff, but it's like, now you can see. That's why I come up and do things like this and move people, just to show you once you have it. And we were talking about this. When you listen to, somebody who's phenomenally skilled, like with music, right? Well, they still had to do, if they're at the piano, they started their basic finger moving exercises right up and down. Then you get the sharps and, flats and everything up in. You start all that stuff. You're playing really simple things, and that's the basis before somebody just plays these phenomenal pieces of music, or it comes out of them, where they compose a phenomenal piece of music. But there's a whole huge step, like the iceberg. We're seeing the top 10%. We don't see all the years and time of effort and programming and trying and failing and instruction that went underneath all of that. Now, if you've done stuff like that, you recognize what it took for somebody to do that. So this is like that as well. It's not the same for everybody necessarily. That's why we give books and stuff to read and to train and teach. And there's a physical methodology for this. But you want to keep in mind, what are we trying to achieve, how and why? It's easy. And one of the reasons so many arts do this is people don't get it, but they get good enough to make stuff work. Right? And so that's where they go. I've seen that many times in my life with people. This takes something that is very difficult for people, and that is managing, giving up, letting go of fears, and all of those things, which is our real journey here anyway, my paradigm. Right? So when you keep running into yourself, right? And it's okay to get down on yourself to a point. Right? If you're not self-critical, you're not going to improve. Now, if you're too self-critical, you're probably not going to improve either. You're going to be really miserable. Okay? But you guys seem around Rochester, there's no demonstration, nothing I've done that I'm like not critical of. Now I have to be careful not to get overcritical. Okay? But at the same time, if you're going to improve, you have to constantly examine. That's why I don't like this master and grandmaster and all of these things. This is way greater than any person's going to master, in my opinion. Right? If you're mastering it, the art must not be like this, because this just continues to go. Right? When you think, I really got this, and you look out there and realize how much more there is. I think that's a great thing personally. Right? But you don't get settled down like, I'm somebody. And we've seen that all too often, the ego trip of the teacher. Remember the shuhari, okay? The shuhari. And one of the failures of the teacher is not being able to let the student go. And it doesn't mean let them go in that sense of the term. It's like my kids are still my kids, right? But they're separate, complete individuals now, and they all know some things, better or more than I do, right? Now I say, once your kids get smarter than you should listen to them a little bit, right? So, are we still family? Well, yes. Are they completely independent human beings with maybe their own families and marriage and everything? Yes, they are. That's what we talk about letting go. You can't stay the parent all the time, which is a big problem with a lot of modern parents who are actually creating dependent children. It's a terrible thing for everybody, right? And it's all a fear-based thing. But you should raise your students, for myself, like you raise your children. I wanted my children to be empowered, capable, make their own decisions, manage life on their own. I'm always there to help. They'll always be my kids, but I don't want them dependent on me. I want them to be independent, empowered people in their own right. And I look at all of you that way as well. Okay? Does that mean we still won't be a clan and we still won't have all these things? No, it doesn't mean that. And I'm hoping all or some of you at least get better than me. Really, I want to see that. I teach with that in mind. I don't teach with mind of keeping a hierarchy where I'm the top dog and all of that. I didn't do that with my children. And I'm not doing that with you. So the teacher needs to be growing through all of this as well. And I personally don't have any problem talking about that. I'm growing in the process. I learn more from you generally in every seminar than you learn from me. Now, the reason that is I've been doing it longer, I can see more, right? And I'm also giving more in the process, right? And we've talked about the universe. You have to give to get. The more you give, the more you get. The more freely you give, the more freely you get. It's just how it works. It's not a fair or not fair, but it's a great lesson for yourself. All the stuff you try to pull into yourself, it's what you give that makes all of this work in that sense of the term. It's what makes a family work best, makes a society work best, okay? And for an individual. And you'll find that the things that you give are far more rewarding than the things that you get. And those of you who have children and stuff, when you see your children do something, it's way better than, I may have needed some of those things, but I enjoy it much more when I see my kids or my grandkids do that. Okay? Remember, the warrior path is a very selfless path in a lot, right? We're the ones out in front. We're the ones that are expendable. We're the ones that are taking those kinds of risks, right? It's our choice. It's our choice to protect the women and children, the innocent people, whether we know them or not. It's our choice to do that. If you're doing this to be about you, wrong path, okay? And so you get competent people that then start doing bad things because it's too much about them and their ego and their need to be tough and their need for all of this, okay? This is a giving path. We're here to stand between, danger, literally the kanji, Setsunito Katsujin Ken. Okay? This is the deal. However, we manage to do that in our daily life, and it could be anything from helping somebody, to just being friendly to whatever needs to be in the moment. It's a lot on that, but that's just the thing. You're going to bump up into it. So it reminds me of this old two old guys are talking, and there's a puppy between them. The puppy's whining. One old boy looks at the other one and said, "Hey, your pup." "It's my pup." "How come he's crying?" "He's sitting on a nail." "Why don't he move?" "I guess it doesn't hurt enough yet." Right? Really simple, but isn't that kind of how it works for us, right? I guess it's not enough to motivate yet, to give up yet. Okay? And it really is the giving up of the bullshit. It's not what you do in that sense of the term that makes this path, right? So your practice is to keep, it has one part, but this is, what of your fears can you give up? What can you reprogram? That's this path. It's not about you.